Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, where we will be talking about the first part of the Strixhaven storyline. And of course, as you can see, the star, at least at first, is going to be none other than the illustrious Professor Onyx, also known in some circles as who, Joe?
Anna Eora.
I knew you would say that. But also Liliana Vess.
No, that person died. Kaya killed her.
Oh, fair point. If you guys are interested,
If you guys want to hear that story, go ahead and let us know in the comments below, and I'll sit here and make Ricky tell me to. Tell it to me and record it and put it on the channel.
Pretty much.
I'm so important here.
Yeah, I know. You truly are. In case it wasn't clear, this is Joe, and I'm Ricky, and we're about to talk about what she's doing.
And this is Pikachu, and this is Annabelle, and that's a narwhal with a candy snow cone for a horn, and that's Harley Quinn.
Now, Onyx, it starts off with her basically trying to find a book. She does not, she's going through the entire biblioplex because she knows it's got to be somewhere around there because it's a book, and the biblioplex has access to every book of every kind of magic done at any point in time in the entirety of the ever. So as she's going through, she's finding not the thing she's looking for. She knows exactly what it looks like, but she can't find it. And then she sees a guy, and this guy is kind of hunched over and he's like pulling books out of the shelf and putting them on the floor. And she's like, what are you doing? You know that like students aren't supposed to be you know, students aren't supposed to be here. This is highly irregular. And the figure then throws out a purple bolt of magic at her, which of course she deflects with her own ability, and it like causes like a necrotic effect on her arm, which she then just like kind of heals. And she tries to kill the guy because she recognizes that it's an Oriq agent, and the guy gets away. And it's like, well, and she runs into Shail, Dean Shail Talonbrook, the white dean of Silverquill. And Shail's like, well, what are you doing here? Like, you need like come with me because Dean is sorry. He's like going to try and make it to where everyone needs to play more Mage Tower, which is like their version of Quidditch. At the same time this is happening, we have two twins, and their names are Will and Rowan. They're on the plane of Kylem, where they have been battle bonding and just basically decking everyone in the Colosseum battles, and they've been enjoying their time there. The problem is Will can't decide which book he's going to take with him. That's the big problem of the moment. This is Will's greatest conflict right now, is that he cannot figure out what book it is that he wants to take with him when he has to leave. Now, Will and Rowan are both on the plane of Eldraine. They are the children of a witch and King Kenrith, who is the King Arthur character. And they went on an adventure to save their dad because their dad had been turned into an elk by the mischievous Oko. And along the way, they actually were able to break the veil curse that was on Garuk, who was being used as a crony by Oko. And they used the cauldron, the legendary cauldron, the black artifact, to actually fix Garuk's problem. And he was able to come back to his senses. Because of all that, Garuk then filled the huntsman role of the whole fairy tale stuff. We can talk more about Eldraine if you guys want that story to happen, but this is just like the quick version of it. And he became their guardian. It was very difficult for Garuk to accept. He was like, okay, you know what, guys? You can be on your own. I trust that you'll be fine here on Kylem, where you'll basically just be fighting people for fun. And this other
for Garuk to accept, like not being with them every moment.
Yeah, pretty much.
So and you guys need me. We really don't. You guys need me.
He goes, I'm here.
It's like, you know, he's Piccolo.
Yes, he's basically Piccolo. He tries to teach him to dodge. Basically, Garuk, or Garrick, I know people, his actual pronunciation is Garrick. I'm aware of that.
I don't
Garuk.
like that pronunciation, but that's probably because I learned to play Magic from you, who always called him Garuk, and then decked me with a giant beast.
Yeah, and exactly, because I'm not afraid of someone named Garrick. It's like, oh no, it's Garrick. Garrick, no, please, Garrick, stop. But it's like, it's Garuk. It's like, oh no, what am I going to do? It's Garuk.
Even scarier, here's Will.
He was like, okay, you know what? Kasmina seems trustworthy enough. I'll leave them in her care. What he didn't know is that Kasmina was going to whisk them away almost immediately to Strixhaven after giving them an acceptance letter to that prestigious college that they didn't even know existed. So the two of them, the twins, are basically getting ready at this point in the story to go to Strixhaven. And Rowan's just super excited to go and meet new people and learn new ways to blow stuff up with her electric powers. And Will wants to learn new things in general. Rowan gets impatient and because she needs to meet Kasmina. Will's taking forever to decide which book he wants, so she planeswalks. The thing is, they actually share a spark, being twins, and for whatever other reason, their spark is unique because it is shared between the two of them. Unlike most people where they would be an individual person. That's why all their cards have been connected in some way, either being the exact same card as is shown in Eldraine and in Strixhaven, or having the partner mechanic, which was their first appearance in Battlebond. Will grabs a random book. I think it's called Memoirs of Thaddeus the Healer. Doesn't matter. It will never matter. But it happened. And so they get there and they're in Strixhaven and everything's like super nice and like collegey. And Kasmina welcomes them and is like, so let's go.
The beginning part was just characterization. It's not important to the story at all. It's just like, well, let's make that. Okay, so Rowan's impatient, super extroverted, wants to see people. Will is very studious, not less extroverted, but cares more about his studies. So he's looking for a book.
Will's talking about a book he read. Kasmina's like, oh yeah, there's that book, but then we could also do this book as well. And he's like, Will's like, I don't know what that book is. I never heard it. It's never been I'd never even seen a book that sounds like that. And Kasmina's like, well, that's because you've never been to the Biblioplex, which is in the center of Strixhaven and is full of literally every book and spell in the entirety of the multiverse. And at first, Rowan was the one who was basically pulling Will along because she wanted to go meet people and all this stuff and get to like learn everything. But the moment Will found out that there was a library with every book in it, he chilled quick and was like, we gotta go. We're out of here. This is gonna be the best. It's revealed that one of the Kasmina's abilities is that she has owls everywhere, like little birdies, and she's able to like see through their eyes because she's green blue. So they kind of explained why it is that how she works, how her magic works, and she's basically like a seer kind of thing. That's her.
So glad we got characterization for her.
Yeah, and I mean she's kind of just like this mysterious like wizard kind of person at this point. She's more of a recruiter. She doesn't have a lot to her, and we'll see. There's gonna be a later episode where we'll have a bit more about her and see how she functions in a fight, kind of thing. Spoilers. As they get to the Strixhaven campus, they're kind of like blown away because Will and Rowan are from Eldraine. Eldraine's big structures are what, Joe? What would a big structure in the plane of Eldraine look like?
A palace?
Yeah, it'd be a castle. Castle Lothwain, Castle Ardenvale, all those different castles are specific. Castle Embereth. They're just those are the castles that you would expect to see, and those are the biggest things. They're like, this place is huge. Just looking at Strixhaven in its like the Biblioplex part is huge. It's bigger than anything they've ever seen, bigger than anything at Kylum as well. And they're just kind of floored by that, like just the enormity of it. And it's just really cool because Kasmina just kind of sends them away. Go, be like, explore. She has other things to do. She goes, go talk to Mavinda. Mavinda's that owlin from before that I told you about, the one who's basically a counselor who can help guide them. And so they send them away, and and it's funny, specifically Kasmina says, look for an owlin called Mavinda Sharpbeak. And they're like, okay, thanks, yeah, we'll do that. And then right at the end, Will looks and like he leans over to Rowan, he goes, what's an owlin? And it's funny because it shows that even though, I guess, especially because they're royalty, despite being planeswalkers, they kind of have a sheltered understanding of the world around them. So they're already being placed into this new world and are having to maneuver it. They've always been together because they're twins.
A whole new world.
And it really, like, they're going to show off the university experience and how they may wind up drifting and things might wind up changing as the episodes go by. So I just found that to be a really interesting concept. Later on in the time skip kind of deal, you have Will and Rowan kind of just going through, and they're seeing a whole bunch of people. They describe seeing red and blue ruffles and frills, And then they see swirls of black and white coats and spats, green and black overcoats with heavy boots, and then narrow red and white waistcoats and high collars. And they're just seeing all these different groups, and they're like, oh wow, this is like really like just it's an overload kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And as they're walking, they see a fight in the middle of a courtyard. There's two students and they're throwing spells at each other, and Will is freaking out. He's like, why are they fighting? This is a place of learning. Don't do that. And so it turns out it's a fight between a Prismari student and a Silverquill student. And they're like throwing their magic at each other. And obviously Prismari and Silverquill are the two most, I guess you could say, performative of the campuses. Because obviously if you have Lorehold, they're about preserving things. The Witherbloom are about studying things. And then the mathematicians at Quandrix are all about theorizing and stuff like that. But the performative ones, they're the ones that are fighting. And it's cool because it's like it makes sense. They're the most active colors as far as the combinations go in this particular.
Basically, Slytherin and Gryffindor.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so the person is like talking. The Silverquill person, they're talking to themselves like they're mouthing something, and there's black ink forming around their hands. And Rowan is like sees that because there's like to clarify, there's more than one Silverquill student, and they're starting to gang up on this other Prismari student. But the Prismari student is unaware of it. And so the other one is like talking real quietly, forming the ink, and they're going to fling it at this Prismari student, knock him out, and obviously win the duel. And Rowan, being Rowan, is like, hey, red and blue person, there's someone that's going to deck your halls. And so she shoots out a jolt of electricity at the ink spell person, zaps them, and causes the ink to splash all over their uniform. And then before that works out, like a coil of ink just wraps around her. And long story short, they wind up in a fight. Obviously, Rowan and Will have kind of chosen at this point Prismari, just by nature of helping the Prismari student to fight the Silverquill student. It was funny because like they fought, and obviously it got broken up, and they kind of like had everybody get kicked around. But as they're walking away, for some reason, when Will did his move, Rowan's tore through it. Her lightning bolt eviscerated his spell, and it still did its job, but it did more than it was supposed to. And this worried Will. He didn't understand why his magic wasn't working with hers. And so, as everything is happening, Onyx is talking to Dean Lizette and Nazari. Lizette being the green dean of the Witherbloom, and Nazari being the red dean of Prismari. They're talking about what's happening with the Oriq, and it turns out none of the deans are really worried about it. This is literally like the last bastion of just knowledge and magic. We have the best of everything here. There's nothing that can break through us.
It's basically like the Ministry of Magic. Voldemort does not come back to life. How dare you use his name?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even here it says it. We shouldn't underestimate them in any case, the Oriq. The other deans and professors should be warned. Surely the school has some line of defense that we can employ. And then Nazari goes, you mean other than Alibu? I'm sure he would love to actually have something to do for a change. Maybe then he'll let go of his grudge against me. So obviously Alibu is that red-white C-3PO golem that we talked about. It's cool because this is a entire university based on conflict between the colors, but at the same time there's this unity between these factions as opposed to like a warring nature to it, which is weird. Now, as Liliana's walking by, as Onyx is walking by,
Oilers.
She overhears a blonde kid in blue say, "This isn't Kylam, Rowan." They weren't in uniform. They had swords hanging from their belts. And she was like, these people are not from Arcavios. These people are talking about a place called Kylam. And then the other responded, "I know that, Will, but this isn't Eldraine, and you can't tell me what to do." And Liliana just knows. I need to keep track of those two because they're probably planeswalkers and might be useful, since the Oriq are definitely going to be taking over the place soon. Already, you have this conflict building between Will and Rowan. Will wants to learn and study. Rowan just wants to let loose. And she is like kind of like tapping into this strange new power that she has. So they get to their dorm, their shared dorm, since they're siblings and twins and all that. They get in, they go, and they like basically just they're gonna go to sleep there. While they're laying down, Will's like, that spell you cast, didn't it seem off when we tried to do it together? It was nothing like it was on Kylam. And she's like, yeah, it was probably nothing. It was just like, I don't know, maybe something was out of place, or you had the wind in your eyes or something. I don't know.
She's basically like, mine worked fine. You just need to do something different.
Actually, let me read this, because he says, what if being on this world is doing something to affect her magic? And then she replies, my magic was just fine.
I love her.
Rowan took to it immediately. She has all this new power that she's kind of like just starting to learn about. And then Will is trying to learn as much as he can to try and get ahead and be able to go back to Eldraine and help their people. And she even says, you may be here to help them, Will, but I'm not you. We're twins, but I'm allowed to live my own life. She goes, this isn't just because you want to go back to Eldraine and use what you learned here for your advantage doesn't mean that's what I want to do. I'm my own person. And so she leaves and she's gone. And he realized
lineage-wise, as the son, Will would be the successor to King Kenrith, correct?
Technically, no. The king, like the whoever's in charge, actually is dependent on who can get the do all 5 of the trials and become king that way. It's really interesting. If anyone is interested in like learning more about that, we could do an Eldraine episode. Eldraine would probably be pretty quick to do. Actually, it would only probably be it would be a mini series, like 3 or 4 episodes, because there's not a lot to talk about. It would basically be discussing the legends, which aren't a lot, and then their culture, and then the planeswalkers.
And then that's how they made the story.
Yeah. So that would be pretty
Go comment on this video when it comes out. Want to hear Eldraine?
And then we get a short cut to Kasmina watching with her owl as she sees a strange man. A man climbing over the rocks, reds and browns of his clothes blending into the landscape. And beside him, a fox-like creature leaps nimbly, only to suddenly stop and drop into a defensive stance. She begins to realize this thing is probably not good, and sees an Oriq agent step out of the shadows to confront Luca. It tries to be like mysterious. It's Extus. He's in a cave, and there's a ton of mage hunters just hanging from the ceiling waiting to come down and devour an entire magical area. That's where we're at. Luca is gonna team up with Extus. I'm trying to figure out a way to be vague like they are with like less words, but being vague just doesn't help. It just makes it sound like I'm stumbling. Luca is in. He's thrown his lot in with the bad guys. And that's how the first episode ends, is with this reveal that Rowan and Will are not united. They have their differences. They're going to start like growing. Liliana is aware of the Oriq, and Luca just joined them. Kasmina is a bystander because she's blue-green, and that's what blue-green does. They're wallflowers. So that's the story. That's the first episode. The next time around, we're going to be doing Rutha. And Rutha is a Prismari student. It's a really great story. You don't want to miss it. Joe, take it away.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and catch you guys with the next legendary lore with Rutha in a couple days. Don't miss it. Leave a subscribe to catch it. Go ahead and like the video, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Fantastic.